Good afternoon, everyone. I understand that it has been a heavy day since morning. We've had so many speakers, but this is the last session before lunch. And this is especially interesting because it impacts the largest number of people in the world. Agriculture in itself, if you talk about India, roughly 60% of the population of India is engaged in agriculture. India supports 17.8% of the total world population, has only 4% of water resources, only 2.4% of land, but still it produces large enough quantities of grains. It's the largest producer of milk, second largest producer of rice, and multiple other things. However, with the changing scenarios, with the Ukraine war, with world over food becoming one of the key aspects, global security for food is extremely important. And with innovations happening in different sectors, we just heard about how innovations are happening in digital sector, in e-commerce. There's a lot of innovations that are happening in fintech. And similarly, there's a possibility of huge innovations that can happen in the agriculture sector. The productivity of animals, the productivity of land, how innovative solutions can be brought up. We have four very interesting companies here who are working in different fields, and I would like to introduce all four of them. The first person is Mr. Dr. Rahul Mirchandani. He has over 23 years of experience at Director Aries Agro. He also was the past national chair. In 2011, in fact, he is one person under whose leadership the G20 alliance was formed in India. They work in the field of micronutrients and animal inputs, trying to help improve the productivity of plants as well as animals. The second speaker, I will not go too much in detail, Rahul, otherwise it will take a while to introduce you completely. The second panelist for today is Mr. Sanjay Dasari. Again, a very young guy. He's won various awards, Forbes 30 under 30, Entrepreneur India 35 under 35. Recently graduated from Harvard. Built a company called WayCool. And I had the opportunity personally to go and meet his CEO. They are doing some very interesting work with technology. In fact, they get the demand from the consumers, and in real-time basis, they send it to the farmers so that they can harvest the crop, and which the loss in the entire vegetable chain, fruits and vegetable chain, can be minimized. The loss in the entire chain is roughly at 40%, and apparently their company has brought it down to less than 1%. So they are doing some very interesting work in that. Glad to have you here. The third person is Mr. Shashank Kumar. He's the co-founder and CEO at DeHaat. DeHaat again is a company which uses technology to connect farmers to the manufacturers. They provide agriculture inputs. They provide various other things, feeds through technology. And the best part about that is that as an individual farmer, you do not have the bargaining power. But when a platform comes, it democratizes the prices that a farmer gets. So thank you, Shashank, for helping us do that. We would love to hear from you. The fourth person is Felix Bonduelle from I hope I'm getting the name right. He's a French guy, again a very young guy, under 30, agriculturist. He's very passionate about agriculture and works in the space of grain storage. And the fourth and the last person who will be moderating the session is Mr. Ravichandran Purushothaman. He has been fulfilling various roles at Danfoss since 2002 throughout different markets in Asia Pacific region. His professional endeavors have been in different sectors focused on energy, water, food, agri-tech, and he presently serves as the working group member at the World Economic Forum. So thank you so much. Hope to have a great session. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Very good afternoon, everybody. So let me give you a quick insight into the contextual background of this session. And I have a very distinguished panel here who have, in their own right, in their own areas, they've done some commendable work. I think when you look at Indian agriculture, it is, in my view, in the cusp of becoming the food factory for the world. Why I say this? Because we are the largest producers of milk in the world. We produce almost 25% of the milk that is produced in the world in India. And you can imagine this is not a small achievement India has reached. Not only that, we are the largest producers of meat and exported out of India, buffalo meat, fruits and vegetables. It's been growing at about 5 to 7% CAGR for the last 2 decades. Despite all that, you see, agriculture only contributes to about 20% of India's GDP. And our biggest challenge is over 450 million people actually depend on agriculture. The biggest success story of India since independence has been, we've been quite a bit focusing on productivity. We have been kind of scaling up productivity in many of the crops and commodities. And this has been done, in my view, in an outstanding manner the last 3-4 decades. But when we look at where India is, our biggest challenge is around value addition in agriculture. And our Prime Minister has been giving a clarion call of doubling farmers' income, which has been one of the prime focus for the current government. Some of the big transformative agenda the government has come out in the last couple of years has been to really professionalize services for agri inputs to the farming community. 20 years back, we could not get tractor in any nook and corner of India. Today, tractor as a service is available across the length and breadth of India. Over 60% of the milk is today converted into value-added products, actually. So we have some very phenomenal stories where farmers have actually truly become rich, but there is also equally not so good stories where India needs its intervention, actually. So I think I'm glad that Dilip and his team have chosen a theme which is professionalizing Indian agriculture through value addition and technology intervention. So one of the biggest opportunities India has is that, we produce more than 300 million metric tons of fruits and vegetables, but we only process them about 5%. So processing levels are very, very low when it comes to many commodities, actually. But I have a pretty insightful panelists here who will talk a little bit about their own areas. But one last thing that I want to leave you all with is that our focus in this session is really looking at transformative ideas that can help using technology and using value addition. How can we, double, triple farmers' income? This is really the core of what we would like to put it out in the open today. So with those very brief opening remarks, I would now invite the first speaker. I will turn it on to the one who got the maximum applause, Felix. Maybe I would invite you to say a few words about your thoughts on how we can transform Indian agriculture.
Thank you very much. Just to introduce myself, I'm Felix. I'm a French entrepreneur of France, and I founded 5 years ago a company called Javelot. Our job at Javelot is to monitor grain storage for farmers, for co-ops, and private labels. And to give you my point of view about agri-tech, my mind is that all around the world, the farmers have to answer a lot of constraints that give them governments and consumers and so on. They have to produce more, they have to produce cleaner, cheaper. Basically, they have to produce better. They also have to use less water, to use less pesticides, to make energy savings. In France, we also ask them to be louder because we think that farmers are too noisy and it's just crazy. What I believe is that agri-tech and innovation is the only solution to answer those questions. For example, at Javelot, we promise the farmers that they will be able to use 100% less of pesticides and 30% less of energy to monitor grain storage. I'm sure that we are creating value for them by those ways. I'm convinced that agri-tech will be a big part of the solution to produce enough to feed the world in the next few years. Basically, isn't it just the agriculture function in the world? This is my mind.
Thanks. I'll come back to you, Felix. Let me move on to Dr. Rahul. You know, Rahul, food, water, and energy have a huge nexus. And you work in this space. Can you tell something that you are doing as well as your thoughts on how you can really transform Indian agriculture?
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here as part of the G20 Young Entrepreneur Alliance Summit. As far as my company, Aries Agro, is concerned, we've been in this business for the last 53 years. I deal with 9 million farmers. I have about 120 brands. What we do when we try to transform agriculture is to look at talking to farmers the language of commerce first, because they appreciate the science based on the money it can make them. In the last almost 30 years that I've been involved in the business, it's been a process of providing nutrition to farmers across India, specialized nutrition solutions. And these nutrition solutions are given in a very customized way, and we serve almost 100 plus crops. Just imagine, and I want all of you to just visualize one of our farmers and what he does every day. When we look at Indian farmers today, they are much more connected to the world than we feel that they are. So think of a farmer today somewhere in the country, comes to our team, and I have 1,200 such people in the field, comes to our team with his soil, gets the soil analyzed by one of the machines we put in the market, which is a soil scanning machine, which uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and tests his soil and tells them exactly the deficiencies that they have in their field. They then approach a distributor across the country, who are also electronically enabled. Today we have our entire network that is digitally connected. Provides them with a nutrition solution in line with the soil test that they've done. We then have them use this using traditional techniques, as well as today a lot of farmers have moved to drone technologies. Delivery systems which are much more advanced, precision agriculture, greenhouse cultivation. Get the right product in the field, get the best technologies to grow their crop, and then approach for market access. Market access also happens across not only in India but also globally. Today a lot of our farmers are connected across the world, and they get all these output to the most efficient markets, to the markets across the world most efficiently. All of which I have told you is not a future tense in India. All of this is present continuous. It's already happening. There are tremendous opportunities that many of you from around the world can actually gather in this Indian market. Today, I deal with 9 million farmers. There are many, many millions more. But the way we've actually helped them is to put the right technology in the field, make them understand it using voice, video, and digital communication, and make sure that the best technologies from around the world are given to their doorstep. This, for us, is the way we've transformed Indian agriculture. But like I said in the very beginning, we speak to them the language of commerce first, tell them the cost benefits, tell them the return on investment that they will make, and then they appreciate the science later.
Thank you, Rahul. I'll come back to you. I think, Sanjay, you are working in a very niche area. Given India is kind of losing anywhere between 25 to 30% as food loss, we have seen in different crops and commodities, the total emissions due to food loss is the third largest in the world. And clearly you work in this space. Can you throw some light on how you have remarkably put a tech platform and reduced losses?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I think you hit the nail on the head. This is one of the most high impact opportunities that any entrepreneur could have, is to operate in an industry like this, because there are three distinct levels of impact you could be looking at. The first is what is most commonly visible to the outside world, which is the farmer impact. If things are done well in the food supply chain, farmer welfare is a naturally positive byproduct of that. The second is economic impact for all stakeholders involved. It's in India alone, food and grocery on the B2B side is an $800 billion market, which is extremely, extremely lucrative if you're able to be involved in this space in a profitable manner. And the third, like you were pointing out, is on the climate change side of things. Food wastage is a considerable contributor to global greenhouse gas emissions. And in a country like India, which is the second largest producer of fruits and vegetables, and yet wasting 45% of the food, that's a significant amount of food that is going to waste. So those are three layers of impact that got me personally very excited by this industry. And I had no background in this personally myself. I was 21 when we started, so it was like no understanding as to what the actual solution should be. But as you go deeper into the supply chain, as you go deeper into understanding how the food value chain works in the country, we realized very quickly, and WayCool is only about 8 years old, so we're still learning as we go along. But we realized very quickly that you can't sort of import solutions from other countries and apply them in a copy-paste scenario to what's happening in India. India needs inherently bite-sized solutions that work for the bite-sized Indian farmers. It's like small farm holding, small trucks, small customers on the front end, etc. So you need a customized approach to this. So the approach that WayCool has taken, and we really encourage many other startups and entrepreneurs to take in this industry, is to come at this professionalization of the food and agri tech stack, food and agri industry from three different levels. The first is to approach it from a demand-driven angle. And what I mean by that is the traditional market works on what is called a supply-driven or push model, where farmers first harvest and then they take the stock to the market and say, I have already harvested X quantity of tomatoes, please somebody buy my stock. So they're pushing the product into the supply chain. This happens at every step from the farm to the city. WayCool operates on a demand-driven supply chain, which is our way of saying that we forecast customer demand and customer process, the retailers in the cities. We forecast their demand months in advance and convert that into long-term cultivation plans for farmers on the back end. So farmers are cultivating and harvesting against demand that they know we have from our customers on the front end. So it flips from a push-driven to a pull-driven supply chain, which is how majority of the automotive companies in the world work today. Second point that we urge companies to look at is how technology is brought in. Now, technology is something that people look at very simply from like just a marketplace angle alone. But the reality is, in an industry like agri-tech, the only technology that you should be looking at is something that is both physical and digital. We call it phygital in WayCool. But the rationale for that is, yes, half of the food wastage in the country is happening because of a demand and supply mismatch, which can be solved by demand forecasting and supply planning, which is your pure tech angle. But the other half is being caused by issues in the physical supply chain itself. No matter how much tech you apply onto this industry, if the process and act of harvesting products and physically transporting them from the farm to the city is not also solved for, you will continue to have food wastage. And that's why at WayCool we have a significant amount of automation being done as well. And the final point that I'll end on, which will really help not only to reduce food wastage, but also to improve farmer income, is championing regenerative agriculture and natural farming practices, which not only improve biodiversity, which will help soil health and also help with the water scarcity issues the majority for the significant portion of farmers are facing today. From the angle of, yes, it is very important to be looking at improving farmer income, but the way we look at it at WayCool is not on a yield per acre basis. We look at it on a value per acre basis. So can you be growing more high value crops and can you be taking those to market instead? Which can really help you check all the boxes of making sure the farmer's income increases over time.
Thank you, Sanjay. One of the biggest challenges in India is farmer does not know what to produce, when to produce, how much to produce. Currently, we also do not have a realistic live data of what's actually grown currently at this point of time in the length and breadth of our country. Data is one of the most critical elements for professionalizing farm. And Shashank, you're doing a lot of work on helping farmers with a lot of advisory services. Can you help us throw a little bit light on how you help the farmers?
So first of all, thanks for having me. My name is Shashank. I grew up in a family of a small farmer, where the family owns a small piece of land, 3.5 acres, for its survival. And that's a larger representation of an Indian farmer as on date. When we say almost 85 to 90% Indian farmers fall under this category of small and marginal. Uh, as a common person, we can understand, or can you imagine that net income for the family, for a family size of 5 per year in India, is just 70,000 INR, which boils down to maybe 6,000 monthly, maybe 200 rupees daily. So that's the persona of an individual Indian farmer. But yes, if we extrapolate at a national level, it looks exactly what you said in the beginning, where 14 to 15% GDP comes from the sector, which is more than probably $400 billion market. But yes, somehow again, by the time I was 24, got exposed to both the ends of food chain, and that's when this all started. I'm representing my venture DeHaat. As many of us know that in India it means a village. And since last 11, 12 years, we have been trying to build one-stop solution for Indian farmers. And it's nothing, it's just an aggregation of Indian farmers. And building a last mile on top of that network, so that economy of scale can be built around every individual Indian farmer for their entire agricultural requirement. So just to elaborate, what we saw that for every single agricultural need, farmers, they have to go to different places, different channel, and that's where basically they lose efficiency. It's impossible for them again to reach out to the best source of seed or fertilizer or pesticide or financing or insurance or storage or market. And that's where I think they have to deal with layers of intermediaries every day for every single requirement, and that's exactly what we've been trying to solve. And I think we are doing just two. I think we are solving it just through two ways. One, what you said, which is digitizing the Indian farmer, that where the farm is located, what they are buying, what they are selling, how has been their historical wallet looks like. And then second is the building the last mile. Because the last mile of Indian agri supply chain is entirely broken, right? I mean, best agri input companies, they cannot reach to Indian farmers, individual farmers. At the same time, again, FMCG players, they cannot reach to farmers. So that's exactly where we come into the picture. It's not around any specific crop, neither it's around any specific part of the value chain. But for us, in fact, the farmer and the family is in center. And regardless of the crop they grow, regardless of the average land holding, DeHaat brings everything related to agriculture under one roof, right from seed to market, right from beej se bazaar tak, whether it's seed and all agri input, financing solution, market linkage and everything. As a result, at each and every touch point, the family, the farmer, they experience some benefit, some value in terms of cost saving, while again getting access to best agri input directly from the best source, or with the advisory which helps them to reduce their cost of cultivation or maximize the yield, and at the same time while again getting access to the market, in fact they experience a better price realization. It's not possible without technology, and I went to IIT Delhi in 2008, and then after that I did consulting before I started this. So a lot of usage of data, which basically ensures the scalability and the robustness of the model. And we saw that that like we always see ourselves as an organization, as a platform, a farmer representative. So that's our day-to-day role, that for our farmer. And as on date, again, we are serving directly 2 million farmers. These farmers are active on day-to-day basis. So on day-to-day basis, they are buying something, they are selling something, they are raising their advisory related queries, they are raising their financing needs and everything. Again, as I said, that since it's a crop agnostics and highly data driven and farmers friendly, so that's the reason why we could scale up this model to 11 states of India, across eastern part of India, central and western part of India. So at this point of time, you will find our presence across 116,000 villages of India, which is roughly 15% of the total India. But yes, giving values to farmers, I think that's the core thesis of DeHaat. It all started from generating high economic value for them. And then at the same time, I think over the years, we also understood and realized a lot of, other potential and probably future potential, right? I mean, because it's not just about the economic value. We felt that, the farmers, in fact, they are not very well educated, while they are, amazing at their own farm, but they require a little bit of, technological hand-holding, basically, to maximize the value of their soil as well. So that is something what sort of, we integrated, we built over the years, and that's where basically, again, we are helping farmers to be ready for the future. I mean, with the maximum value out of their soil, right? I mean, with the right package of practices, I think, adoption of the right crop or the varieties, considering the current climatic situation is so volatile. But yeah, last not the least, I have a very, very strong belief, on the theme what you said, which is the professionalization of Indian agriculture, because it's not a new sector. It has been into its existence since ages, but there has been a lack of transparency. There has been a lack of efficiency, and as a result, all of us have been suffering, whether the farmer or the consumer. So this professionalization, I think that's an utter need of our, and I see a lot of, I think, potential as an outcome of this, because in the current situation, India is a country, and hence Indian farmer have to play a very, very strong role towards solving global food and safety and security issue, which is not possible unless until we don't professionalize the overall Indian agri value chain, and if we don't bring Indian farmers to the mainstream with the help of digitization.
Thank you, Shashank. I'll come back to you, and let me move on to Felix. Felix, in our short conversation, you mentioned about your 95% of your business is right now in France. And when you look at the opportunity in India, especially with respect to the silos, most of our structural issues are those companies who do processing of grains are really the ones who hold the silos, not the farmers. Do you see any lessons from France that you would like to share with the Indian farmers, which can help the Indian farmers to really reduce their losses?
Maybe by consolidating the volumes could be a good way to save the grain. I know that in India we lost last year something like 20 million tons of grain and of wheat, just the wheat. That is not the first grain that is produced, I guess. Maybe building bigger silos to consolidate those volumes could be a good way, because in France, by this way, we are able to save a lot of volumes, and we only lost something like 1 to 2% last year. So maybe it could be a good way to me.
Yeah. I think this is a great idea, because we have in India a lot of farmer producer companies. But the question is, how do you demystify technology to them to add value? So maybe a business model innovation has to be thought about it, and maybe some of you can collaborate actually. So moving on to Rahul, you have been an innovative company doing a lot of work on nanotechnology. How important is innovation in agriculture? Because Indian agriculture really has multiple challenges, because when you look at the continent called India, we have more than 30 agroclimatic conditions in India. 70% of agriculture depends on the monsoon in India. We have 2 monsoon seasons, the southwest and the northeast monsoon, and our agriculture is very much dependent every year on monsoon. Given this paradigm that is in front of us, how important is innovation for Indian agriculture, and what kind of innovations do you think India needs to come out with, even more than what we have today, in order to transform where we are?
Thank you very much. I think as far as innovation is concerned, I think innovation is the bedrock of growing our industry. Our own company, Aries Agro, since the time we were founded, brought in ideas way ahead of their time. So we started off by bringing products from Europe and the US into India for the first time. So we brought chelation technology into India, which basically was non-reactive fertilizers. Fertilizers which do not react with the environment. That was the first innovation that we launched in the 1960s. At that point, it was way ahead of its time. Then, of course, we went on to say, how do we demystify this for farmers? And what we decided was that if we had to demystify the world's best technologies to Indian farmers, you needed to customize them. Customize it based on agroclimatic zones as well as soil conditions. So today our labels, so I have 120 brands that I sell. These 120 brands are labeled for specific crops and specific agroclimatic zones, which mean the farmer knows if he's meant in one state of India, growing a particular crop in a particular soil condition, this is the crop specific product for him. The idea is keep complexity in the factories. Make it very simple for the farmers to choose. We can handle the complexity in an automated factory, but it's not possible for a farmer to figure it out himself. So we needed to customize. One, we needed to have products which were sustainable. Second, we needed to customize it. And to deliver information to these farmers, today I have 9 million farmers on a customer loyalty program. We basically talk to them using the voice and video based communication. Using simplistic voice and video communication, we have a YouTube channel where they come in for information on crop specific information sources. The idea of building trust in farmers, that this is a company that provides information at the right time and helps us specifically design solutions for their environment, gives a long-term sustainability to our business model. So if you look at the three fundamental areas, one, you actually get sustainable tech. Second, make sure that it's customized, make it simple for the farmer to understand, and deliver that information, removing literacy from the equation. The moment you bring in voice and video, you remove the written word or literacy, and which means today everyone is a potential buyer. Indian farmers surprised us during COVID with the speed at which they adopted digital communication and went completely online. Today we do 100% of our business is completely done online. The most recent, our YouTube channel, just for an example, we had a session on watermelon a few weeks ago. 32,000 farmers joined that session. And this was all completely digitally connected and online. The speed and acceptance of farmers of this kind of information is brilliant, and I think that is what will transform the agricultural scenario going forward.
Great, I think that's really very insightful. Sanjay, I think we just heard from Dr. Rahul. Trust is a very important element between tech companies like yours and farmers. You have been procuring a lot from farmers. How have you actually built this trust element with farmers?
That's a great question. So WayCool today sources from about 250,000 farmers across the country. And for us, given the approach of dealing with farmers as entrepreneurs, we don't subscribe to the idea that they need us help and support. We learn more from farmers than farmers will learn from us. So we approach them as we would any business partner. A farmer is an entrepreneur that has an asset, which is the land, and they're trying to maximize value on that asset. And the way that we do this is by helping them with the information visibility as to what we need from our demand with our customers on the front end, and through interventions along the planning stages, through interventions along what to cultivate, how much to cultivate, where to cultivate, etc., we're able to help them realize a 35% increase in net income on a bottom line basis, not a top line basis. Because we look at everything, the cost of water, the cost of labor, the cost of inputs, cost of working capital, all of these elements later, they get a 35% increase in net income through working through our model. And the way, and this is not something that happens on like a single crop cycle alone. This is something that has to happen over multiple crop cycles, multiple years. And that's the only way we believe we can build trust. Nor do we discount products to the retailers on the front end, nor do we offer farmers a significantly higher price for the products. We are very, very fair but very firm in how we operate, as we would expect from any business partner that we work with. So the beauty of working with Indian farmers that we've seen is that they appreciate people who approach them with good intentions and appreciate people who approach them with good business intent. And that's what we've been doing for the past 8 years. And our relationship with farmers have grown and blossomed because of the consistency by which we work with them. It's not just for this one cycle, it is a long-term partnership and a long-term commitment that both of us are making from our side and from the farmer side.
Excellent. Shashank, you mentioned about your transformation as a farmer to a tech company helping farmers. And in this journey, you've already scaled, I heard you said 11 states of India, right? What does it take for you to really scale on a pan-India level? What challenges do you see in your business model? And what are some of the collaborative elements which, in my view, companies need to really look at it? Because collaboration, innovation, leadership, in my view, are some of the ingredients for professionalizing farming. So what are your thoughts about collaborative models? And do you see that something that will help you to scale up?
No, absolutely. I think to the first part of question, challenges, I can go on and on, but I think the simple answer would be acceptance. Right. So again, back in 2011, I mean, imagine. I think the first impression I was carrying that, all right, I'm going to quit my consulting job, heading back to my state, Bihar. I mean, farmers, they would love welcoming me, right? But I think for them it was like one more person in the value chain in a way, right? So I think, and acceptance not just for the farmers, also for the industry. As I said, that industry has. It's not a new industry, right? So, and there has been an existing supply chain, whether it's for input distribution or for output aggregation. So acceptance by the industry as well, that do we need an alternative distribution or aggregation network? Acceptance by family member as well, right? That, that again, according to family, parents, they left no stone unturned, to keep me away from rural area, to agri. And then, I don't know, after doing everything, you went back to the same thing, right? So everything, acceptance by the banks, investors, right? Because back in 2011-12, this agri-tech used to be agriculture. So I think at each and every stage, I would say the common challenge I think we experienced was the acceptance. But at the same time, I think similar to any other entrepreneur, I think that was the fun solving that. And I think the only way how we could do that is to stick to our belief that no, I think someday things will improve, things will change. And why? Because I think we knew that sooner or later physical as well as digital connectivity of India will improve, and everyone probably will start talking about the last mile, farm level sustainability and all those things. I think that's one. If you just do a quick recap of our journey, right? So yes, I mean, today it looks like 2 million farmers, again 15% of total villages of India. It looks like that every day we are aggregating close to 6,000 ton of produce. Every day we are delivering more than 30,000 agri input orders to farmers. We have close to 12,000 physical DeHaat centers in deep panchayat, taluka or prakhand level. But I think the journey has not been uniform. First 7 years, I think these numbers used to be very, very small, very minuscule, very, I think, non-existent type of number. But I think those 7 years were very helpful, useful for us to understand the ground level reality. It was helpful for us to build each and every function I talked earlier, whether it was input or output, everything. And why? Because nobody else in India had ever thought of building full stack model around farmers. Nobody had ever thought of building its own last mile around all these subsectors. But yes, I think it has been phenomenal journey so far. But the beauty of the sector is that every next day you get to see a new challenge, and I think that has been really incredible, because a lot of new things still yet to be learned. On the second part, it's a large sector. The sample size of problem statement is huge. No single organization can solve this. In startup lingo, it's not in and around the farmer and the family. so that, let's say, globally, if you have anything relevant for the farmer, you don't need to be worried that how that innovation or offering or proposition will reach out to farmer. You don't need to be worried that how you mentioned about trust, which is right, and which is the most important factor, for a farmer or for any other consumer for that matter. You don't need to be worried that how I will establish that trust, or basically, do I need to reinvent the wheel for 3, 4 or 5 cropping season to build that trust? So it's more like I think that collaborative thesis we have adopted, because we are not the sort of, let's say, end user, right? So we supply all these farm produce to FMCG players, retail chains, quick commerce and everyone, right? But again, where we are focused on the last mile side, you let us know if you need chili with high pungency, if you need, let's say, again, corn with high protein content, and you don't need to be worried. So everything, right? Similarly for financial institution, you will get access to all sort of, data related to farmers and everything. So long story short, I think the collaborative approach is the solution, because again, it's not a winner takes all. And that's the reason why DeHaat as a platform model has very, very high degree of interoperability.
Thank you, Shashank. So let me just summarize before I open it up for Q&A. I think what you all heard from these 4 different leaders who have done remarkable work in their own rights is that the food system is moving towards, food system innovation, leadership, system solution approach, highly customized. And this is the trend at which the Indian agriculture is moving to. And I believe this trend actually will only accelerate the professionalization and value creation of agriculture. But I think the core of all of this, what you heard from all of the panelists, is deployment of technology. Technology is becoming a resource liberating force. It is getting services for farmers at their fingertips. It's becoming easily adaptable, customized approaches, because India is a continent of 30 states. We have every 150 kilometers, different language, different food, different culture, and you can imagine we are trying to solve a complex problem through technology. And I think India is poised to become the food factory of the world. With these top leadership sitting here, I have no doubts India would head to that direction in the next decade or so. I will stop here and open up for some questions to the audience. I think they all deserve a big applause. Yes, please. You can address the question to the panelist who you want to ask.
Everybody listens? Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the talk. It was very interesting to hear firsthand from one of the largest agriculture markets in the world. We are the delegation from Mexico. Personally, back home, I run a water industry business, and we are facing water scarcity worldwide. Last year in our state, we had water cuts every few days. Almost some regions of the country that were not so well economically were without water for weeks. And we have understood that it's not per se a water scarcity problem, but more so water distribution. And I would like to know, well, in India, you have a lot of water thanks to the Himalayas, to the monsoons and everything. But what is the percentage of water used in agriculture versus the city? In Mexico, we have 70% in agriculture, 25% in the city, and 5% in the industry. I'd like to know if it's the same numbers here, and if not, what have you done to solve it?
Shashank, you want to take it?
So it's more or less same here as well. However, India is a country of diversity, so even the water table, you'll find it keeps varying from one state to another. Within India, you'll find one part of geography, mostly the Gangetic belt, and a lot of river beds where the water availability, the water table may be just around 15-20 feet. But at the same time, many parts of India which is still rain fed. So, but yes, I think we all are united by one recent problem statement, which is the climate change, where in general the water table has been depleting. So it's a common problem statement for I think all the countries to come together and to brainstorm and basically to exchange the knowledge transfer. In fact, coincidentally, right before the panel, we were talking about the regenerative agriculture, which is very relevant, to solve the water as a problem, right? The catch or the challenge here is that it needs to be customized, right? I mean, regenerative agriculture as a principle, right? I mean, when you are talking about rice and wheat crops, then maybe the zero till as a cultivation, right? I mean, that might be the solution to save water, right? Dr. Rahul, he did mention about the crop nutrition and the specialized fertilizer, which is more close to precision, right? I mean, depending upon the soil data, depending upon the soil moisture, basically he has been recommending the mixtures, right? And where it's more like a preventive, right? We are not talking about crop protection, you're talking about nutrition, right? Which is going to reduce the usage of the crop protection, which is going to reduce the residual value of the soil and hence improve the water retention capacity of soil. So I think as a principle, this regen piece, and whether it's cover crop, whether it's mulch, right? I mean, there are a number of things, but yes, towards adoption, it's very, very early stage in India. And why? Because it's been last 7-8 years, this water table as a problem has been more relevant. But as far as percentage and inefficiency is concerned, you will find more or less same as your country.
You want to add something, Rahul?
I just wanted to add an example here. Water management is a critical problem in India like it's in Mexico. One of the things that the government has done recently in this year is we're celebrating the International Year of Millets. Now, millets are superfoods. Superfoods are, and these superfoods are unique in the sense that they grow in climate-stressed soils. At the same time, the millets, which are about 9 millets basically solve 9 human health issues, grow in climate-stressed soils, and also provide nutrition significantly better than traditional cereals and food items. So we are preserving food security, but also changing the cropping patterns in areas where there is water scarcity to start growing a new generation of crops, which are superfoods in the world, but are something that we believe will add value to the food plate. So one is, yes, water management in India is a critical issue. Today, about 40% of India is irrigated, has drip irrigation systems. That's a massive number. We grow a lot of precision agriculture. My own company deals in nanotechnology and high density nutrients, which reduce water to 1/10 of what the traditional water sources will require. So basically reduce the need for water, but also try to have a new generation of crops that can grow in climate stressed soils. And I think these are ways we can very proactively take part in this, the future of agriculture, which is going to deal with climate stress, but there are solutions to it.
It looks like there could be a lot of potential collaboration between Mexico and India on this area.
I would really love to invite all of the panel over there. We have a huge problem. And also I can see that in solving the sanitation issues as well that we present in Mexico, solving sanitation is a solution for agriculture as well.
Yeah.
You can take the black water, treat it, send it to the fields, and it's already fertilized. It has a nitric necessity. So thank you very much for the information, and definitely come to Mexico. We need your help.
Thank you for the invite. When you solve the wastewater problem in the city, you have to choose whether you want to use it for cooling or for agriculture, because both requires very high energy, But good input.
Thank you.
One last question. I think we have 40 seconds left.
सर, शशांक सर, आपसे मैं पूछना चाहूँगी, आप बिहार से हैं, मैं झारखंड से हूँ। मैं अभी सबसे ज़्यादा जो मैं फेस कर रही हूँ, मैं अगर अपने गांव में जाती हूँ, मैंने देखा है कि जो प्रधानमंत्री जी का जो चावल वाला योजना है, 1 रुपये वाला, तो उसकी वजह से लोग खेती नहीं कर रहे हैं, और हम अगर बोलेंगे तो भी वो खेती करने को तैयार नहीं है। तो क्या आप इस तरह की प्रॉब्लम्स फेस करते हैं, और अगर करते हैं तो किस तरह से इसको सॉल्व करते हैं? पहली बात तो ये है। दूसरी बात ये है सर कि पिछले काफ़ी सालों से लोगों ने खेती से बहुत मतलब कटते गए लोग, तो जो एक कहते हैं ना पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी लोग चल रहे हैं, तो वो जान रहे हैं कि भाई कैसे करना है खेती, तो वो चीज़ें ख़त्म हो रही हैं। तो उसके लिए हम क्या करेंगे? फिर इन्वायरमेंट जो है वो चेंज हो रहा है, उन सब के बीच में लोगों का कहना है कि भाई जितना हम इन्वेस्ट करते हैं उतना हमें मिलता भी नहीं है, तो अगर नहीं मिलेगा तो इस तरह से हम कैसे प्रमोट करते हैं? और ख़ास करके मैं आपसे इसलिए पूछ रही हूँ क्योंकि मैं जानना चाहती हूँ कि आप किस तरह से फेस करते हैं, ताकि हम भी उस तरह से फेस करना चाहेंगे। तो आप प्लीज़ बताइएगा।
बहुत बहुत
Maybe for the benefit of everybody, can you briefly tell what is the question so that everybody understands it?
श्योर श्योर। क्या नाम है आपका? Sushma ji, thank you. Thanks for asking the question. So the question is, I think, around the mindset of farmers, because and mindset of farmers towards towards remain enthusiastic in their own farming. A lot of government schemes basically provide them few of the staples for their household consumption at almost free of cost. So I think, so day-to-day basis, do we see any impact of those things in terms of farmers' mindset or not? So I think that's, I think how we are solving the simple thing is, can we show them more economic value through farming, right? I mean perception, and especially in states like Jharkhand, और मेरी schooling भी नेतरहाट से हुई है, तो मैं बिल्कुल झारखंड से वाकिफ हूँ. So the perception, as I mean, they in general agree so far, and especially in that side of our country, has always been perceived as just for their own self-consumption, not as a commercial occupation. For example, often when you ask someone in rural area, what do you do, right? I mean, many times you will get to hear nothing, and when you will double click, really nothing. Then they will say, हाँ खेती बाड़ी. That has been the common notion, right? So the intent and attempt here is to basically change this perception and myth. Ki if you are into farming, it's not like you are doing nothing, right? You are feeding the nation. It's a mainstream occupation. How that can be achieved? Through better economic value. And I think within state of Jharkhand, I'm sure you will find many farmers growing tomato, right? Exotic vegetables, especially in the clusters of Hazaribagh, Ranchi, Ramgarh wala area, right? So within the state, in fact, there are many success stories as well, where the cluster of farmers, right? And when, and especially like female member of the family, right? When they came forward, they formed informal groups of cooperatives, farmer producer organization, and they started getting indulged in cooperative farming or so, right? So things are changing. How do we solve? How are we solving? The simple answer is basically giving them, demonstrating them that agree that they can improve their livelihood through farming, through better values, through better profits, where they don't need to grow the conventional crops. The conventional crops are important for their own subsistence or survival, but at the same time, part of their land holding basically they can allocate for high value crops as well. And as an organization, basically we don't discriminate the crops, as I said, because the model is crop agnostic. So so we work with the family, with the farmer for all the crops, whether they are growing for self consumption or for the commercial purpose. But yeah, it's a slow process.
Thank you very much, Shashank. The organizers are after me. But I think on the final note, I think that was a great conclusion. If you want to make India win or any country win, help your farmers win. That's the message from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to thank our panel, and I'd like to invite Alessandro Somaschini from Italy and our friend Dilip back up to the stage to present you with a token of thanks. Alessandro. Yeah, great panel. Thank you. That was great. Thank you, guys. It's awesome. Yeah. No, wait. Thank you. Wow. More done up here, please. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Thank you very much. Loved your comments. Thank you. Oh, and stay over here for the picture. Thank you. Thank you all again. Cheers. Beautiful. Okay.